How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to another episode of Headcases. And I must say that this week's guest, if I had to put it down into one word, ambitious is what comes to my mind. And now, why you're probably asking me, well, firstly, he currently works, last count, about 7 different salons across the U.S. and Switzerland. At the start of his career, the beauty press called him and labeled him as the next rising star. Now catch this, he's cut the hair of Hollywood legends like Sharon Stone, Marissa Tomei, and he's been sought out ever since by screen directors and screenwriters. He was the makeup specialist for NBC. Now catch this, he runs 2 companies, not one but 2 companies, in not one but 2 continents, catch that. He was the pioneer of dry cutting. So let's get into this week's head case, Mr. Mike Kark. Well, Mr. Mike Kark. Now, is it Michael? Or is it just Mike? Is it, because I think we share a name if it's Michael.
I was born in New York, and there is Michael, but there is no Michael pronunciation here in Switzerland. Certainly, exactly. So. It turned to Mike. So one day my dad came back from a U.S. trip and back to Switzerland, and he brought me a T-shirt and it said Mike on it. And from there on, it was Mike.
I got it. Well, just first of all, I just want to say thank you. It's great to have you on board here. We've been passing each other in the dark for 100 years. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. This is an absolute honor. I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I listen to them. I would say maybe know half of your guests that were on it. I enjoy them very much. Most of them like back to back when I do my long runs in the Swiss mountains. So I enjoy it a lot. And thank you for having me.
Well, it's absolutely a pleasure. I mean, I know I'm going on in my mind right now is you immediately said running in the Swiss Alps, and I want to get there in a second. But just for everybody watching and listening, we have everybody has this link that hooks one another together, and I don't want to give much of this away straight off, other than what I talked about in the opening. But we have a link of Lori Zabel and Dop sometimes where you work in New York City, and so it's just it was so great. I remember being in there one time, walking in. I don't know whether it was to pick up my lovely lady or whatever, but or to say hi to Joe or to Lori. But I remember seeing you work, and because I think you worked down in that last station on the end, I think is where you usually were. And I went, everybody's going, "There's Mike Kark over there," but you know that. So I didn't want to go over and disturb you because you were in the middle with a client. But it's an absolute pleasure to have you on here, and I'm super excited that we can get a good chance to have a talk.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks for having me. And yes, Lori Zabel, huge, big respect. Love her. Yeah. I do work at Dop every so often. And to be honest with you, I mean, on the flight back from San Antonio, which we did a trade show, that was the first time trade show at the premiere from the Premiere Show Group. Right. On the flight back, by coincidence, I switched seats. So I was able to sit next to Lori.
Oh,
and
right.
We chit-chatted it, and we just hit all sorts of conversation because I love talking to her. And then in the end, I just said, like, hey, FYI, because I know you're super tight. You're like her dad, as I've been told.
Yeah.
If Chris ever needs a guest and wants to have a story of a Swiss man traveling to America.
Yes.
Bringing
chocolate with him.
Bringing chocolate with him.
No, it is an absolute honor and a pleasure. But I always want to know, because I always find with people like yourself, I mean, you've been around for quite a while, and you've built up this amazing, iconic image that you have. And
thank you.
Most people, I think they're sometimes afraid when they see somebody who's on stage all the time, and they're almost afraid to walk up to them. But I like to get them some insights as to how did you start off. So, I mean, was hair always in the cards? Did you have other things you did first? I mean, before I even knew I wanted to get into hair, I delivered groceries at the Red and White grocery store in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, center of, like to the western part of Canada. But did you do other things, or what happened? What was the hook?
Okay, the hook is very simple. No, so it's not in my gene. I do not come from a hairdressing family at all. So zero background of that. I come from a very modest Swiss family, middle class family. And at the age of, 13, we figured out what maybe you're going to do later on in life. My mom said I could see as a hairdresser. The minute she said that, I visioned myself cutting hair. And this is not a joke, Chris.
Really?
Cutting hair in a room, people watching me. Had no idea, of course, what it'd take. And then at the age of 15 and a half, after the official schooling, I started an apprenticeship. We do apprenticeships in Europe, most countries. So here in Switzerland as well, of course. And there was a 3-year apprenticeship at the age of 15 and a half. In the mid-'80s, I started. Mm-hmm. So I'm close to 40 years in the business. And I haven't stopped since. And that's where it all started.
Well, you know what? I just want to do this. And for people that are just listening, I'm doing that to your parents. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Europe, but I know that in America, often when kids want to get into the job, the profession, the skill, the trade that they love and wanted to do forever, they're often discouraged. They're often saying, well, go get some college thing, and if that doesn't work out, you got something to fall back on. So sometimes it's not seen as, the ideal job to go to. So I just bow my head to your parents for that. Now, and I have one, you said you came from a modest family, as I did. What's it like now when you go back home and visit with your folks? I hope I'm not stepping on something. I hope they're both still with us. Oh,
they are indeed. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. I thought I stepped on a landmine there.
All good. All good.
Like, what's it like when you go home and they see what you've become, and what is it like for that visit?
Mm-hmm. So I reside in Zurich, Switzerland, with my wife, where we have our second company. I have a company in New York, and I run another one here in Zurich, Switzerland. So they're not too far away from me. Yeah. They've always been very close. And let me just track back here for a second. You said big 2 thumbs up for my folks that were behind me from day one. And they really were. Literally, all they said is like, if this is what you love to do, this is what you should do. So it doesn't matter. My father was a businessman. My mom took care of me and my sister. So the typical split. Mom taking care of the kids, dad goes to work 9 to 5. So, but that's, they've supported me from day one, supported me, still as of today. My dad, my parents, talking mentors. I mean, they're my mentors. I don't have business mentors. These are the people I look up to. They've grown up in, after war, they built themselves a great life, brought 2 kids up. I mean, done tremendous job. So absolutely. I mean, just heads off in every direction. Still as of today, they're 86 and 87 years old. Wow. And so absolutely great. And they love, of course, what we have built, and they are proud. They are proud.
I'm sure that pride must be just the right word, because I think what I'm getting out of it is that if they're the ones that suggested it there, and then you grew to this empire that you have in 2 different countries and traveling the world and teaching everybody, and your name is on hairdressers' lips everywhere. To me, I think from a parent's point of view, that must be just absolutely phenomenal for them. So one more time, I take my hat off to them. But so now a lot of people in America don't, they know of apprenticeships, etc., but they're, it's not it really doesn't happen like that as much in here, even though, I mean, you can say whether it should or shouldn't, but the reality is that a lot of them go to school here, as you well know, and then it's getting into it. What was it like for you? Now, when you went to your apprenticeship, and I heard, I've got this little backstory from you that is it true that you had sort of a Sassoon start? You did some apprenticing with the Sassoon as well?
No. So what happened is in Switzerland, there is no Sassoon, but the person that I was learning under came from a very structured background, and he was kind of like a Sassoon-driven kind of a concept. So mid-'80s, geometric hair cutting.
Right. Yeah. So
across the board.
Yeah. And so that's you were raised with that definition, correct, body style. I mean, I know, and I have to tell you this, when I went to Sassoon's, that's where's my hook. But I remember, and being that you have these amazing scissor products, et cetera, is that I remember that when I went to them, that I had to start with, they said you had to use 3.5-inch scissors.
Yeah.
That was your style. And, but those scissors I used to buy, if I remember correctly, because this would have been in about I'm guessing 73, 74, maybe 5. And before that, we just got the scissors we had at the school. And then now Sassoon's was professing you had to use these, but they wouldn't hold their edge. And I think if I got a month, I was making $179 a month, but I knew we had to buy 3 of them. You had to buy 3 of them at a time so that they would last. And when I think of the irony that I'm talking to a gentleman who, you have a whole brand of them. What was the kind of hook for you? Like, and this is going to be a multi-purpose question. And is that number one is, what was it like, and the transformation that you went from the style of that very disciplined style to the dry cutting style that you have now? So maybe let me just make that the first question, then we'll talk about quality of scissors.
Yeah, okay. Great question, by the way, Chris, and I'm glad you're asking this. So basically, to cut a really long story short, I still cut in a very similar manner, except I cut on dry hair and use texture sliding shears, soft sliding shears, but the concept is still here. So instead of having dead, wet hair that doesn't move, that just sticks there, and you probably recall that as well, the hair was wet, and you even sprayed it weather. That literally the water was running down on people's jaw onto the cape. No, and he was true. Just laying there. No, it is true. Yeah. I mean, I was there. And you as well, of course. And so, again, it's the same. I work in the same manner, except it's now on dry hair, or maybe just, a little bit of moisture or products in it. I also love to work with products in it, but still in a very similar manner, and then using texture, blending shears, and all sorts of stuff. So that, for instance, you weren't allowed to use texture and blending shears, and I don't think you still are, or a razor, which, I mean, I find that terrible. I mean, that's like taking a chef's salt and pepper away. I mean, it was a philosophy, and, it was a certain way of doing this, but, that doesn't gel with me. So, you have to break that. But, so all of a sudden, let's say, a famous haircut like a graduated bob, if you do this with a texturizing scissor on dry hair, it actually becomes now. If you cut a one-length bob with texturizing shear on dry hair, it becomes now. That's what's trending right now. Yeah. And every hairdresser cuts dry hair, except they don't talk about it. So that's what my hook was. And then with that, of course, I developed a cutting system with tools and all sorts of stuff. And, also as a scissor line, I was the first scissor company to cut hair in a booth, to do a classroom from a scissor company. Now everyone does it, or a lot of people do it. But back then, over 20 years ago, when I rolled out in doing my own booth at trade shows, I had zero competition. I was the only one.
And I think the other interesting part in that is that you learned. I mean, I've watched you cut. I've seen you cut. I loved your work. As a matter of fact, I was just watching you do something the other day where most people would spend an hour trying to get this beautiful graduated bob, and you took large sections, you pulled it back, you had your over direction was perfect, but you did all of the work on the ends of the hair with a texturizing scissor. So you still had that beautiful line on the perimeter, but the ends were so soft and they moved so beautifully. And, and I just saw that the number one, quality of work. Number two is the speed of which you attain quality work. And I think that's really interesting based on a couple things, because I remember we're talking about our friends at Sassoon's, and I remember talking to one of their higher up people, and it's just become, they said, would we like to change now? He said, well, it would be good, but he said, we've ingrained ourselves in that structure for so long that we almost can't. People would question why we were doing it if we're changing our philosophy. But I love the fact of how you cut and how it works fast. So can you give us just a little bit more on if you have an average client that comes in, and do you get them to come in with their hair pre-washed? How, like if somebody hasn't done this yet, how would they instruct their client?
Great question. There is no rule and regulation on how to approach this. I approach it, and we all know you can train a clientele. They know how you work and go about things. You can also have, when you have a first-time clients, and I get new clients, I always ask them, can you please come in with, clean hair and like the way you wear your hair? A majority of the people do. They always show you, a new client shows you how she wears or he wears his hair. Super easy. And then you can cut it, and you can do like the base cut with it. Then you can have it washed and shampooed and blown out. So there is no rule and regulation to it. If you don't feel right about it, you can wash it, do the perimeter, the outline, cut the base wet, blow dry it, and personalize it. There is really no speed to it, So, for instance, John Sahag, a very well-known dry cutter from New York City, which I'm sure you know as well, his haircut took like 3 hours. Everything was tapered, every hair texture was blown, pin straight, and then with the Marcel iron, made it even straighter and then tapered. Great technique, good philosophy, everything great, but every hair texture. So I like to approach hair texture like they are, because I celebrate someone's hair texture, and and so have it a little bit more a little bit more open as well. Like approach it how you feel it.
Yeah, because I mean, that's one thing and I think that in watching you cut is that. When I watch Lori cut too, is that there's people that, and I know everybody talks about the feeling, but when I watched people that can leave a piece out just because it looks good, I mean, and I mean that sincerely, there's always a surprise in there. So I think there's, and I'll give you some of the feelings that I have, and tell me if we are on the same track with this. Like when you're cutting hair, you have a discipline and a structure that you're going to go for, but it's got to be like a fuzzy picture as opposed to clear, like an 8.5 by 11, because the hair is going to throw a curve at you. Like a piece is going to fall out of the hair, and you're going to go, oh God, that looks amazing. I'm going to leave that there instead of just cutting it off. And I've kind of watched the way that I've even watched how you take your texturizing scissors and you move the hair on top as you're cutting it. It's not they're moving it out of the way. You're just moving the hair the way it feels, to see how it moves, and then adding definition or texture or whatever. Give me some of the thought process that you go through in that.
Well, we have to maybe track back. I can also do this with my texturizing, soft texturizer and heavy texturizers, and my seamless blending shears, because I have a very special technology on them. So, yeah, correct. So my texturizing shears you can slide with. I have a very special blade finish. So my convex edge is placed differently. The top of the scissor is straight. The right has a convex edge, a very fine one, and the left is rounded. So instead of cutting the hair through, it's being pushed over. That's why you can do this. So I can point cut with my texturizing shear. I can like literally go into hair, open the scissor, close it, and pull out. So you can sculpt it. You know, we all know personalizing. You know, everyone sees things different. Where is too much weight? Hair needs to be eliminated. The bulk or how hair grows. So you get in. So you can almost sculpt it. You know, with such shears, you can't do this with straight shears.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I was the first shear company to polish an edge. To polish an edge, I took the convex edge off. So it wouldn't So it wouldn't cut too straight. You know, not so blunt.
Yeah. So it gives you a softer edge.
Have it very, very forgiving. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what your kind of a razor does as well. It leaves that softness. But the razor is on wet hair, and you cut it differently. So I still like the cut. Plus, I really manipulate the hair ends because the hair grows at the root. So as lighter the ends, as nicer it can hold its shape.
Yeah.
And the haircut still needs to be perfect. But if you come from a very structured, I come from a very structured background, you know that, and the sections are just a little bit bigger, and you can manipulate that well. And you know, that's how you get that movement now. I mean, look at all the scissor companies now. It's Instagram and all of it's full of texture and blending shears, and I mean, it's just been an avalanche now.
Yeah, and you know, it's really interesting. I find that where we used to have. I'm going to take you back to, and I wish I could. I still have a pair. I should have brought them down. I use them for whatever now, but because I remember I gave my one to my mom, and when she passed, I got that last one, and they're still the original ones that I have. But the thing is that was the only thing you would do, and now the average hairdresser needs to have a variety. You know, and I've seen people that will have like 2 or 3 scissors, and I've seen some that have these big, huge pouches full. Is there if you had to say recommend, say whatever your number is, 3 or 5 scissors that they have to have, what would they be and why, and what would be the purpose of each one?
Absolutely, 100%. So I in my case, there are 10 pairs of scissors.
Got it.
And I like a variety because we all deal with different hair texture, and cutting is my thing. I cut hair. I don't color hair. I see color, but I don't color hair. Right. So my specialty is cutting hair. My specialty is dry hair cutting. I celebrate dry cutting. Always have. I've never done anything else. This is my forte. This is my expertise. That's what I also communicate in seminars. You know, people have a thing deep down in their heart that pushes through that they should really celebrate, whatever it is, if it's color, balayage, blonding, cutting. So mine is cutting. I want to ask also, what's yours? What's your forte? Sorry, I put you here on the spot.
No, never. I'm an open book. I've always been a cutter, but I'm a cutter, but I'm the avant-garde dude, and I love creating avant-garde looks, and to the average individual, because that's my therapy. You know, to the average person, it's like, where the hell would you wear that? To me, it's just like making something that's got an art process to it. Same thing as you do with cutting.
Okay, you know? So there you go. So it's avant-garde, it's doing the art. So mine is cutting. So that's what I celebrate. So a hairdresser should have a precision shear.
Yeah,
I believe, you know, I use a 6.5 inch precision shear. Then I just launched several years back a hybrid blade. That's a mix in between a slider and a precision, but still is a precision. I call it soft cut because it cuts very softly, not so blunt. So I definitely a nice add-on. Then every hairdresser should have a blender and a texturizer, because you can blend shear if it's scissor over comb, because you get different hair texture, you get finer hair texture, you get hair that leaves marcations, You get thick hair that you need to take some weight out. You want to texturize hair. So they come in all sorts and different shapes and textures and sizes, and you want to conquer all of them. You should have a slight cut blade if this is how you like to work. It's all about building a scissor kit. Nobody flies from the sky, boom, right off to beauty college or school or apprenticing. You build one at the time and you add on. And you start to develop kind of like how you like to cut. I like things easy. So my tools make cutting hair easy and fun because again, a texturizing hair, you can go in close and pull out without a pull, a drag, a bend, a nick. I mean, how brilliant. They have flat tips. You can point cut with, you can work on the skin. I mean, that's freedom, that's just leaves it makes it fun. And
there's nothing more annoying than having your hair cut when somebody's using a texture scissor and it pulls, or it's got one tooth that just seems to be grabbing on the hair. So that's why I think it's so. If what I heard was do you suggest that they have to, in your style of cutting, do you say that they should have a straight edge as well as your as well as your texture scissor and your blenders as well? Yes.
Correct, absolutely. That's a great kit to start off with, and then you add as you go on because you start to, develop a feel for it. And again, if you, for instance, we sell a lot of K whites right now. This is like my blend. That's like my slide cut shear because curly hair has a huge comeback, as you've probably noticed. It's about time. I can't wait. Yes, absolutely. Finally. Perms or texture treatments or beach waves are just around the corner again. And, and our, people's hair texture is changing. Our races intertwine. So kids have different hair textures. And, so they're slide cut. You can manipulate the hair very well. You can celebrate against someone's texture, the curly hair, so it doesn't cut that straight line. So, you start to developing like a style or like how you like to work. And then you add a tool on, as you go on. So, we have, I have 26 different pairs of scissors. Of course, there's lefties in there. We got some with the swivel thumb, which is not my cup of tea, but hey, all good. I have no issues with the hands, but hey, if that's someone's game, be my guest, use a swivel thumb and, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's for every stroke, it has something, but certainly there's a really cool philosophy and technology behind it. And that really makes cutting hair so much easier. I mean, goodness, I think back, I used to have with my 4.5-inch blade, I had to scissor over comb. I mean, these 80s short haircuts. I mean, no wonder that thing took me hours and was never even, I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, believe me, anybody that knows, I know that spent hours on it. And then we used to brag on it. I'd look at this undercut. It took me like 45 minutes to do. Oh, yeah, very good. You made no money. Great brag rights.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, correct. I want to take you back a bit because there's one thing that I admire about you. I'm sure, first of all, you could probably fly with your airline points. I'm sure you could probably fly around the world probably 200 times or whatever with your points because and that's what I want to jump into right now is the vision that you have of salon and working in a salon versus owning a salon. So that what I've got, and we said in your opening that in the last time, I hope I got it right. I said that you were working in 7 different salons from between the U.S. and Switzerland. So give us a little, see, most people have that. I'm going to go and work in a salon, whether that's independent or in a big salon, and I'm going to build up my skills. And my end game is owning my own business. So tell us a bit about your philosophy, the way that you treat it, because you don't just have one and you're not in one salon all the time.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So first of all, I never wanted to own a salon. And secondly, every salon I worked at, every salon owner male or female, told me, don't ever own a salon. All right. So, and I still work and worked in the best salons.
Yeah.
So let's wind back quickly. In 91, I moved to Los Angeles from Switzerland. I was 21 years old. In 93, I moved to New York from LA. At that time, Louis Licari, you might rings a bell, the colorist, opened up a salon, his second salon in New York, in Beverly Hills, just around the corner from Lucaro Salon, where I was working at. So I was told or heard he's flying back and forth. I go, okay, that's cool. If he flies back and forth, I can fly back and forth. So I moved to New York to make my money for the rent in New York. I flew back and forth religiously every 6 weeks to create a clientele. So that's when my bi-coastal thing started to happen.
Yeah.
And that was in the early 90s, so in 93. I, by the way, still go to LA to cut hair, and I still see, you can count them off on one hand now, but still people from that time, which is just tremendous, unbelievable. And so as I went on, I started to work in different salons. So when I was back in New York, I was at one time at La Coupe. Then, they told me I would have, which I'm sure it was Kim Lepine.
Kim Lepine, yep.
So, the manager, sorry.
No, you go ahead. No, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, the manager there told me I would have to spend more time in the salon. I go, no, I don't, because that's not what I want to do. So I left. Right. Then I worked at, Miano Vial. After that, I was working with Bob Racine because he needed somebody to take care of his clientele, a great editorial hairstylist. Mm-hmm. So at all these different salons. I have this program called Rent a Karg. So I did in-salon education. So when I did in-salon education at certain salons, they kind of liked what I did. And then they were basically asking me, could you come here again to do clients? I go, yeah, absolutely. I can do that. I have that program as well, not just for education, but also to do clients so they can promote the salon. Yeah. And, I still travel to Germantown, Memphis, Tennessee for 20 years now. I mean, tremendously. I do that in Newburyport at Interlock Salon, one of the top 200 grossing salons in the nation, run by Jeannie Aramo. Unbelievable business. I work in Washington, D.C. at Ferro Salon. My buddy Aaron and Marco opened it up, Top Color Salon. I work in Beverly Hills, now in Pacific Palisades with Michael Connolly at his salon, and Jeffrey Martinez. Michael Connolly, known for still as of today, the striking Jennifer Aniston hair color, most requested hair color. That's, by the way, all he does. He works in other salons as well across the nation. So, so basically, the ingredients to keep that up, because it also sounds cool, is to be consistent. And now that word consistent is very difficult for a lot of people and for hairdressers as well, because, you need to sacrifice. And goodness, I sacrificed. I miss weddings, funerals, birthdays, small and large, all sorts of stuff, because work calls and you need to show up. And you need to show up all the time. That's just, how it is. So you need to be very consistent. So instead of me, and then of course I work in New York, which I have my largest clientele. I've been now with Joe for the past 16, 17 years. Yeah. I go in and out of there. Great rep, easy going. I go do my stuff. I have my 2 stations. I do my work. I'm in there. She loves when I'm there. I love her. Great community, not a big deal. Make it easy. I book all my own clients for the New York gig at other salons. They do it. So, it's all a little bit of a different setup. And the thing is just this with nowadays, I used to send out little postcards to announce my visits, which was really trippy, super cool postcards. And now you could just send out an email, makes it super easy.
Yeah.
And obviously announce it as well on your website. Excuse me.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the really key part is, when are you available? Let's face it, if you have a clientele and they're coming in and you space them out over 3 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks, whatever that might be, they've got that time frame. But if they know that Mike is going to be in town from day 1 to day 7 of whatever month that is, and I just book my times accordingly, and I get back.
Yep.
There's another thing that I love that you said, and I thought it's an incredible tagline. you said that your clients should only need 4 haircuts per year. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. Because I think the way you cut the inside of that or the outside of that story is, look, I'm cutting your hair so well that it's going to grow out for you. And I can, I've got a higher value proposition to the client because, listen, instead of me coming in once every 6 weeks, I come in every 3 weeks, or once every 6 weeks, I come in every 3 months. And not only does it fit in your schedule, but it really helps them along. The value is there and it affords higher pricing. Do you price accordingly for that?
I do price accordingly for that. The thing is also there comes a flight in there too, and a hotel, but also, for instance, in New York, which is probably obviously the most expensive place to go to. I'll also have I have my companies there. So I go to the office, I have meetings. It's also home turf. I love going there. So, it's not, it's also nice to go back home and, sometimes it works out a little better than other times. And, to be honest, but, it's usually, again, I also combine that with in-salon educations too. So it's always a tour. I go on a tour. So in the end of the tour, it then all works out. Plus the thing is this, what I do is I still, I work on my name. I still create an image. I spread the name. I have more other exciting things to come. So it's important that I have that contact to the hairdresser. Because, the hairdresser, I have a B2B, the hairdresser in the end of the day is my client. And I'm carved out of the same woods as my client. I'm not any better. Not at all. I'm the same as my clients, the hairdresser. I'm carved from the same wood, and I like the dialogue there. So that's why it's nice to know a lot of people around it. That's why I work in the South, on the West, Northeast, East Coast. So it's good to spread around like that. And of course, as well, always like going to do a handful, not anymore as many trade shows, just a handful of trade shows now to also like kind of follow up and see them as well. So again, that's what I said earlier. You need to show up, if you want to do that. This doesn't happen overnight. I mean, and this all started pre-Instagram and social media when I built everything. Now, of course, the social media, the things, it's a good thing, but it's also split the industry in half, I think. Kinda.
Yeah. So how did the what was the shift? That I want to find out how, like, you were in the salon, you've been building yourself up with your clients, and then all of a sudden this tweak for education started. How did you transition? What was the spark that got you from transition of working in a salon all the time to saying, I want to teach?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, before I forget, Lori, our good friend, your daughter, she splits the time. She goes to New York and works at Dove Top. So she's bi-coastal. She resides in San Diego, so she's bi-coastal. So it's all doable. But, she's there more often than I am. So she's super consistent. I mean, I'm consistent, but, with her kind of clientele, and I think she also has a much larger one too. She goes there more often, and she also does the color and everything. So it's a little bit of a different take on that. And which that's how it started. So in 94, I joined Wella when they were on the brinks of turning around. Yeah. Mario Argenti was the president back then. He turned that Wella boat around, and I was on the Wella International Network team. That was the Duffs were part of it. The Patrick Cameron, Soons even at some shows, and the Win team. And we toured the country. IBS shows. IBS shows used to be in Seattle, Atlanta, LA. They
New
were
York.
all over. Exactly. New York, of course. So there, was in all these trade shows. So we toured with them. So that's when I had the bug. But I have to back up a bit. So my very first hair show, in my first year of my apprentice, at the age of maybe was then 16 by then, was Salon International in Earl's Court in London that my boss took me to. And I, as you roam around, I saw Trevor Sorbie on stage. Didn't know who he was. I just watched him, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. That's what I want to do. Because remember, I had that vision of me cutting hair and people watching me. So it's just something I'm like, oh, I like that guy up there. I want to do that. I think that happens to a lot of us because, you know, you see someone and it's like, you know, I'd like to do what this guy does. So I've always had that in the back of my mind. So that's then when it started to happen. So, you know, always education. I enjoyed it a lot. And, you know, with Wella, it was awesome. I mean, you know, I got to work. I remember when Michael Gordon from Bumble and Bumble, you know, he used to do all the photographs and that whole imagery. And, you know, we were there. And like, I remember Nick Aroja just got off the boat, literally, and he joined the well at Bumble and Bumble. So, you know, that crowd, Patrick McIver, you know, they were there. Like, so it's just like, it's just a really cool group of people, and it just got us around. And I did that for 6 years. And then, you know, I always enjoyed that. And then a little shift happened. I took a year off, and then I was asked by Goldwell to be artistic and creative consultant for Goldwell America. And my responsibility was Trendline, and use a liquid line, a styling line. And I toured that for 2 years. And to make product knowledge a little bit more interesting, was working with all this distributor, built actually a tremendous business with that for Goldwell. They enjoyed it a lot. They were very happy to spice up product knowledge. Actually had my first prototype made of scissor, and I toured that, and I was cutting dry hair. So I spread the buck there. That was in 1999.
Wow.
I remember so well. Yeah.
Well, that was the era.
A prototype.
When,
a prototype.
You could do a show a weekend. I remember actually in the 80s, you could do a show a weekend and never hit the same distributor. If you did every weekend, you could travel. There was so many distributors at that time that you could just do the same show every weekend. Just look for the haircuts you wanted to cut, do the work you wanted to do, and it was an in and out, same shtick, same guideline that you had to do at the previous shows. And then it was all of a sudden, then they started to narrow down. The distribution started to get bought up by companies.
Correct.
And it was really interesting to watch. And then, so what do you, when you see that, what do you see now? Like if we talk about lots of distributions, shows and different headline shows every weekend, where do you see that it's going now, Mike?
What I see what's going, I mean, I've watched this so closely. I've been hitting those trade show floors forever. I see they become fewer. There's a shift of people going on. The pandemic has definitely left a mark. I believe education is going back into more in-salon education, because I also see that on how many requests I receive per email, which is really super nice. Also the education out there, and you have to be careful nowadays because, almost, everyone is now an educator or a coach, which is just mad. And also, I am not so much a fan of that word educator, but I guess that's kind of like our title above us. I'm more like, what I like to do is I love to share my passion. That's every seminar, every gig I start with our distributor in Germany, in Austria or Switzerland, I always, when I have a group of people, I always tell them in the very beginning, I'm really not here to learn you how to cut hair. That's not my job. Everybody knows in here how to cut hair. I'm really here to share my passion, like what works for me, and hopefully you can take it and make it your own so you can carve a piece. Because, when we start, we all look up to someone, we're kind of inspired company, individuals or stuff like that. And as you go on in the business, you carve your own style and becomes your signature, like a clientele is a reflection of yourself. So very much like that too, that, as a hairdresser you develop, which is really something nice. And that's what I try to share with the people that are interested, wanting to get a glimpse on, what's that education all about. So to share and drop that knowledge. But I believe this is kind of like where it's heading to. It's a little bit of a sad thing is with trade shows. Big companies, they pulled out because I understand they want to put their money. Trade shows are expensive. I mean, they're expensive. I mean, it's unbelievable. Out of the gate was a 10 by 20 booth, no bells and whistles. I mean, easy 10, 12 grand. I mean, you haven't even paid your staff. The product that you're selling costs money too. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And, I also, but when big companies pull out of that because, they're doing their big, gigantic symposiums, gatherings, however, global coming togethers, whatever it is, I get it. They trigger all the same people in one pot. They're all whatever company infused, so they know what they're communicating. Sometimes I think like, okay, are these people just here to shop cheap makeup or just for kitchen gadgets or trying to beat a discount price even lower down, just like bargain hunters. So that has shifted a little bit, very much. Then also, what I find is we need to, in presentations at trade shows, I don't know what happened, but on main stage, I see mannequin hats. I mean, what has happened? Main stage presentations used to be with a model parade. Now, whatever you do in a classroom, that's a different story. But on a main stage, and if you have like a new breed of people going there and they see mannequin head on a main stage, I mean, they're being washed with a whole wrong impression. So I think show companies need to spice things up here a little bit again and take a little bit of a stand and maybe not always run after whoever. I mean, it seems to me just whoever has a bunch of more followers going instead of actually delivering good quality work and something it can also take home. I mean, excuse me, I'm not sponsored by anyone, never have. I even pay models to cut their hair in my booth to keep a present. Now, I have a mannequin head there to try out the scissor, always had. Of course. But I still have an actual head of hair, which, I mean, and so I think with that, you could take a little bit of a pride and a stand to make it fun again and professional again. Sorry, I got very passionate about that. So sorry when I got here in a little bit.
No, listen, Mike, you never have to apologize for any. Never apologize for your passion. This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. You hit something in my brain when you were talking about how you're getting way more bookings for in salons. And I remember talking to an owner at one time, and they said to me, why would I want to send my people to a, trade show with, there's 1,000 things there, and they're selling everything from jewelry to floor sweepers and everything. And they said, why would I send them there? And I have my team go out there. I have no control over them if they're parting their brains out, coming in or whatever. Or I can have an artist come into the salon and that person, and I can help them give the training, the exact training that I want. And I think you were hitting something there where there's a lot more of the in salon that's happening because they can really customize whatever needs, problems, solutions that they have to have for their individualized people. I think that's very, very cool. Let me ask you this: when you got into the education, then you made that transition, and you were, this you had your thing, you're doing it really well. And because I know, God knows, I know when I first got into teaching education, there was some hiccups along the way. When you were first started with shows, etc., was there things that went wrong, things that, all of a sudden something didn't work out right? What was there any of those when you first started off? I mean, we used to play jokes on one another from one team member to the other, just to try to have some fun in our own personal mix up while we're there. Was there any of that went on in your?
I'm pretty blessed in that retrospect. I guess I'm very swift when it comes to that. I'm super well overly organized. I can get a little bit tense before these shows and stuff. I guess I learned it the hard way when stuff got stolen. I pack it up well, so maybe that, and like my first show, I remember so well. I did my first trade show, and I did not know you had to go and pack up and fill out a bill of landing, and I just left it in the booth, and somehow somebody, no, it's just like, I'm not kidding you. I mean, those things, and how you learn on getting a different table, and then you get the risers and you get a proper shipping company. You shouldn't be maybe going with the company that they're providing. So like these things, because like I had to learn, or, okay, hold on, you don't really need the carpet. You can also buy these foam pads and maybe have them shipped. And I have a shipping company that does free warehousing, and, like these things along the way. I was luckily always very blessed with the people, and still as of today, that are around with me. They are all hairdressers, passionate people. I treat my people, they're all freelancers, exquisitely well. We go and dine well. I love to eat well. I celebrate that. I love the camaraderie. I respect, everybody can cut hair in the booth. Spread, be yourself, and just, show up again. No monkey business. So
I can only, my head's still caught in the loop here, because I'm thinking, I know I've lost some, I usually generally travel with about at least 12 to 15 pair of scissors. And I know my own fault. I left it in a cab. But and it's devastating. So, but if I lose 10 or 15 scissors, that's nothing compared to if you have your whole scissor collection at a booth and that all gets stolen. I can't even imagine.
So I maybe have to, it wasn't inventory as of in merchandise. It was booth equipment.
I gotcha.
Stereo equipment, all that, stuff around it, because, we actually, the scissor, because I started to sell online e-commerce when literally e-commerce was invented. So I was very, very early. It's why I have a very high Google ranking. I've never paid a dime for it.
Awesome.
So because I've done this very early on. My first company that did all the backend was CC Now. I don't even know. This was like you ever have the Palm Pilot where you flipped out the antenna? That's like ancient stuff. And anyway, so I didn't have the money and the inventory. So I need to bring inventory to the show and grab the same stuff again and take it with me. I wasn't able to leave it on the crate. So that we took home, but I just left the booth stuff in there, figuring it's just somehow, where I'm at, it's going to get shipped. So, things like that. Just tremendous. And again, I'm very blessed. Other than that, I haven't had many hiccups. Model or two not showing up or so. But other than that, always, knock wood. But also because I think things are over-prepped. And then, when you do these trade shows, you see people over and over. You're building a relationship. That And, you start to get friendly, even like the people at Jacob Javits Center, people from the union, you're like seeing them, hey, how are you doing? They're very strict, but, they can cut you slack. If you're nice to them, they're nice to you, and all
Little
sorts
graft.
of stuff. So, yeah.
Your New York accent wasn't too bad there. Hey, how you doing?
Wasn't too bad. How you doing? Yeah.
How you doing?
There you go.
So let me ask this. Do you, now, give us a little bit more. Now, I want to hit on this entrepreneurship because the one thing that I think that is so great about, for the people that are listening and watching, is to know that you can only, if you're working on your own behind a chair, you can make a tremendous amount of money if you do it correctly. But the reality is you can only still make so much money because you can only do it because of so many hours in the day and booking times, etc. And I love entrepreneurship. And I love how you've set yours out. You have your scissors, you have other things that you sell as well, and you have your multiple incomes from different sources that you get
Correct. Yeah.
So, but now I want to jump onto your entrepreneurship. So do you right now when you've got your scissor line and you have to do all the stuff, do you have other people that help you? Like you keep a small tight group? Do you, how do you handle all of that?
Yeah. I am blessed with a tremendous, brilliant wife that runs the show.
What's her name?
Her name is Verena.
Verena?
Verena. 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 Correct. So she runs the show. We've been married for 15 years, together for 18. She keeps my back. She does all the business. She's not a hairdresser. She comes from a business side. And she runs it all. She keeps my back open. So she deals with all of that. She deals with my accounting. She deals with bookkeeping, because I'm not good at that. I'm also I don't want to 100% know and also what's going on. Just if there is a problem, raise the flag so I can focus, because otherwise I'll get all tied up, Right. The thing is this, we work a lot. We work a lot. Still, and the thing is I also love it because I have different arms. It's like an octopus. It's different arms. So I got hair cutting, which I enjoy, but I would never want to just cut hair behind. I don't want to. I respect everybody that does, but my thing is I like to show up, do my stuff, and leave. For instance, this weekend I'm leaving to Bern, the capital of Switzerland, to Bern at a salon way up in the mountain, Heimischwand. I've been going there for 15 years. I'm working there 2 days, go in, do my stuff, and leave again. So I like to do this. Next weekend, I'm actually going to go to New York. I work a quick day and then take care of some personal stuff. So I tie it in this way. So that's what I like to do. So with the clients. Then we have the education, which, in salon and seminars where we invite people, do an event, or I go and get hired by a salon, big or small. I do one-on-ones, I do bigger salons. Then there's stuff with distributors in the US. Then here in Europe, I have distribution in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So I do stuff with them. And then we have, of course, the online stuff, the online sales too. And all the money all the money we make, I put straight back in to develop, because, we're working on the next thing that's coming, because, we've been doing scissors for over 20 years now. And there's a lot of scissor companies out there now. And, so it's I enjoy doing this. I'm still doing this, but, we need to, I've always wanted to, need to shift a little bit in a different direction. And, which will be then the next venture. And, which is also important to also keep things interesting and fun. Correct.
Do you have to now? Is there, because you've got a bit of a different model than people that they want to just they throw all their money at it. They got this big huge organization. I love how you keep yours small. Do you do your now? Because I know you've had a big background in editorial work and shooting, etc. What's the angle that you use for your promotion? Do you do it just on social? Do you have to do shoots where you're actually, this is your advertising campaigns that you do. Tell us a bit about that.
That's just funny. Just this past Sunday, I had my artistic director here from New York, Russell Cordero, which, by the way, says hello.
Yes.
We talked about you. You know him. He says you have asbestos hands because you helped him at a shoot with Lori because you held curls in a diffuser. And he goes, he didn't understand why your hand weren't hurting. He goes, this guy, super helpful. Maybe your ears were ringing. I don't know. But big respect. But he goes like, this guy, I have no idea how he does it.
Yeah, so, no, they always tease me that I have Teflon fingers.
Yeah,
but
correct.
So with your shoots though, do you when you put that together, maybe give it more of a concrete, when you do that shoot specifically for your company,
correct.
Are you the kind of person that you're better on your own putting the whole thing together, or are you better as a collaborator? What's your process that you go through for your shoot?
I put it together by my own. I don't plan too far ahead. I know the girls and the boys that are coming, and I go very much on the spot. And I have help behind me. I have makeup artists. I have, somebody that does a little bit of closing that watches. I have a great photographer I've always been working with. I have Russ here. He knows how to handle me super well. So I do a lot of on the spot. And I've always rolled this way. I work tremendously great under pressure. Right. I love pressure. Yeah. I have a great story on the pressure, which was shot with Robert Labetta. I did a photo shoot for Wella at the Soho Grand. And we were shooting for Color Touch, I think that was. Yeah, correct. Color Touch. And we're shooting images, and it just didn't want to happen. And Robert goes like, sometimes you just got to let stuff go, and maybe it just doesn't happen. I go, what, we're quitting now? I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. But maybe that was
not with the Swiss here.
Push my button. Yeah, exactly. And boom, the image that I created became the image for Color Touch back then on this beautiful mulatto girl. Yeah. So anyway, love the pressure on the spot. Absolutely loving it. That's why it's so funny, before I got on here with you, I got like, God, I'm like sweaty hands, I'm a little nervous and this, that. And then I can stand in front of hundreds, whatever amounts of people, do a haircut, not a big deal. So it's funny that, again, that easy flows out of me on the spur, on the moment. And I mean, of course, I look at things that I see, but I get very much orientated with music, with this information I get fed listening to, podcasts too. And again, when I distract my head and running the mountains, the best therapy, I get the best ideas, I can air out, I need that balance. And that's why I guess it's maybe also such an extreme. I guess I like a little bit the extremes, to be honest.
It's funny. I think we must be psychically connecting here, because I was just going to ask you, with all the travel and all the from show to salon to shoots, what does Mike do to just wind down, to sort of get your head back on straight again? And is that, so I heard, is it running? Is that what I heard you say that it is?
No,
I heard before we started, we said that you were running and that you love running in the Swiss Alps. So, is that what unwinds you?
That's it, exactly. It has a name. It's called trail running. And I poured and shopped my heart into it at the pandemic, because the first time in my life actually was 2 years in one spot. So the first time in 2 years, the first time in, goodness, all the time I've been married, my wife and I spent actually 2 years in a row together, which was fantastic.
She didn't kill you or anything.
No, not at all. No, we get along super well. We hang out super cool.
Oh, good.
So all good. So thank you. And then, being here in Zurich, I live, I walk across the street. I'm on the base of our Zurich mountain, and that's where it all started. meaning I was doing it before, but never in that craziness.
Yep.
And I found the best therapy ever. I used to decompress differently, and I knew this is not going to be maybe really a good thing to go on like that for for the next X amount of years. So I found something else, and again, I like it a little bit from one extreme into the other. So it's trail running, and it goes into ultra running. Ultra running is everything above 42K. So I just did this summer my first 100K, which just 18 hours running. You go. No, but it's super cool, Chris. It's super cool.
When you do that, is it like they always talk about when you do marathons, you kind of hit the wall and then you go out the other side, and it's like almost like a spiritual
absolutely.
Ascension.
Totally. So the thing is trail running is not all running marathon. Marathon is flat.
Yeah.
Straight, asphalt, or street. Boom. Yeah. Like New York Marathon or Chicago or Boston or Berlin. Trail running is in the mountain with elevation.
Yeah.
You go up and down, left and right. You have technical terrain, less technical terrain. I did a run this year in the summer. I was crossing a glacier. I had to put on crampons. You had to bring them with you. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I'm walking over 100 million year old.
Yeah, and just so that people don't know what a crampon is, that's the thing that you put on your feet that when you see them climbing in mountains or on ice, so that you don't slip, fall, and kill yourself.
So those are smaller ones that are made to do, with like smaller spikes, but you had to bring them. I'm walking over 100 million year old ice over a glacier in Switzerland. I mean, how much better? I mean, how much better in my life now does it get?
Yeah.
Where I am in my life now. So it's just the best. So this is the decompression. And since I've been doing this, I mean, mind is super clear. I love a clear mind. I don't drink alcohol. I quit smoking. It's just so clean. I know the other side as well.
Yeah.
So now I enjoy that side, and it's just
good for you.
Best. I recommend it to everybody.
Oh, I can only imagine that the insights that you would get if you're running through the Swiss Alps. And, it comes to the point. I mean, yes, if it is a competition or not, I don't know. But it is the clarity I'm sure that you would get just by having to go deep inside and analyzing yourself. Must be amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's super cool. And I'm glad my joints are holding up. I've had some boo-boos. I think certainly, and I just take care of it, and I learn a lot about my body too. And, who in a million years would have ever thought Karg is going to do that? I mean, goodness. When I did an in-salon education in Arizona, where was I? Not Tucson. No. Phoenix. Tempe? So I did Camelback.
Yeah.
Camelback.
Oh, Camelback. Yeah, Camelback.
Yeah, so I did that back and forth. Correct. And then I went out. That was so cool. Like way out. Tom's thumb. And anyway, another in the desert. An Uber took me out there and just went running there. It was a big run, and I was like in the desert, like left and right. I was like in the prairie. I mean, I was on a trail, and I have maps digitally, satellite maps, everything, and watch and everything. But it was awesome. But I enjoyed it a lot. I was running by these cactus. They're like 150-year-old, like ginormous cactus.
Yeah, those are the saguaros here.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I believe, I might be off on my timing, and I'm sure they'll hear about it if I hear from somebody, but I believe that a saguaro doesn't even build an arm until they're 50 years old. Yeah. So it's amazing out here.
Absolutely. So that's just a super blessing. But we say I trailed here a little bit. I get very passionate now about that too.
Well, I sense that's in anything you do, Mike. Listen, Mike, I'm at that part right now where we're at the sort of our rapid fire kind of things. I'm going to throw out some questions to you and just give me like 1 or 2 word answers as it goes along with this. What turns you on? What turns you on in the creative process?
Pressure, challenge.
Wow. And what stifles it?
I mean, if you have some bad energy around you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me too. That's me too.
That has happened on a
Yeah.
photo shoot. That was luckily towards the end. That was like somebody came in. I'm like, holy moly, that was just bad. Bad energy, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, just in life in general, what is it that you dislike in life in general?
Lying.
Oh, and what do you love the most in life?
Being on time.
Nice. So nothing to do with the German side of you, right?
Respect each other's time. Like we. Yeah.
What's the most difficult? If you had to say the most difficult time in your life?
Most difficult. Oh. Difficult. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't. I'm not looking forward to when my parents will pass.
Oh,
so that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
I already know everything else. I think when people pass, that's difficult. But otherwise, everything else is to be conquered and can be figured out, and you can sit down and I guess when you lose loved ones, and even if it's a pet, I'm not looking forward to that because we have a dog, and I know it's not going to live forever. It's going to go one day, and I know people have had pets, and certainly my parents. I mean, goodness, I love them so dearly, and I'm fucking not looking forward. Sorry, my word.
No, that's
looking forward to it at all.
I'm with you. Is that like sometimes the emotional energy that you have for your pet is almost the same as what you have for a human. So they're just four-legged humans. What's the thing? Tell me what you like most about our industry.
Camaraderie, if it happens, but we're all competitive.
Yeah.
In our very own way. And I wish sometimes, and it's maybe also a little bit on me too. I know so many people. Sometimes I don't even walk. I don't see them. I don't even walk up and say hello. I should. And everybody listens to this now and see this now. If you see me somewhere, come walk up to me. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a. I could be better at that.
Yeah. And this is nothing I had planned here, but just from what you had said.
No problem.
Because I know I'm that same way. Would you say, are you an introvert on socially? I know on stage we all expect that we're this kind of person they see, but are in personal life, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
No, I think extra. I mean, I would say absolutely. No, totally open, love striking up a conversation. It goes a little bit in waves too. I guess maybe, I when I'm tired, I'm tired. And the minute I switch off, basically. So I'm sure like after this here, because, it's late here, I'll be then, be happy to go home because you have to get up again. But no, I like the social thing, but I also like the, like again, when we're at a trade show, I also like just the team to go out and be together instead of be with the hairdressers and so.
Yeah. Proudest moment of your life?
When I really decided on going to when I launched that first scissor, that was like everyone was still with teams, and you were at an artistic team, and you did the leather. And I branched out myself because, I've never had a corporate gig. I just had, you had like these 30-day contracts or whatever, your day rate or blah, 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 as you know. And they're not really branching out by myself and like hit the show floor and like, okay, I'm getting a booth at this show and so on. Like without having a, no, it was all my own money. Nobody handed me money or anything. It was like just, taking that step and believing in it.
That do or die moment, right? When you believe in yourself. I love that.
Yeah, totally.
Living person that you admire the most?
Living.
Yeah, living person that you admire.
My parents, my
Beautiful.
dad, my parents, yeah.
A person you wish you could meet. Living or dead.
Yeah, living, Elvis.
Elvis, love it. Could you put a
Elvis.
little whipped cream on that jelly donut?
Oh, yeah. God.
Something that people don't know about you.
People can talk to me. I think sometimes people don't they're afraid to walk up and say hello. I'm like the biggest ham. Okay. I'm actually super silly. I love silly stuff.
Oh, good.
I love funny stuff. I like when I like Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
I like fart jokes. I mean, sorry. Sorry I said that now, but I do.
I'm laughing because my wife and I, we had the news on, but we put on Instagram, and there was this skit from it must have been an Australian one about somebody that was just eating, and then the lady got up to try and move the air through their body and said it wasn't farting, said it was just this. We may have to take this off, Lee. I'm not sure, but it was. Okay. I was just dying this morning watching fart jokes on Instagram, and here we are. Okay, a month off. You didn't have to do any work. Where would you go? What would you do?
Alps, skiing, obviously in the winter skiing, summertime, just Alps, climbing, walking, running. Alps, definitely. Mountain, high up though.
Nice.
Secluded.
What's your greatest fear?
Oh, I'm really not looking forward to when my parents will pass. I'm like that fearing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That personal, close death, how I'm going to deal with it. I'm so emotional in that.
Yeah. I cry at cartoons, so I know what you mean. Your favorite curse word?
Scheisse.
Scheisse. I think that
shit in English. Shit in German.
Yep.
Scheisse.
Yeah. Favorite comfort food?
Love popcorn and pistachios.
Nice. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would that be?
Right now.
Yeah.
What's the English word for that? Nachtragend. When you sometimes I should get over shit quicker.
Ah, there you go. Get over the scheisen quicker.
Yeah. Get over the scheisen quicker. Exactly.
The scheisen quicker. Something in the industry that you haven't done, but you'd want to.
Products.
Oh, product line. Okay. Now, everybody. Sometimes I'll do over. If you had one thing that you could do over in your life, and everybody says, "Well, I'll be." If I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have to do something wrong. But if there was something that you could go back in and change, or something you could do over, what would that be?
Oh man, but it's like, because obviously if you have done something different, you wouldn't be where you're at now. I get that. I remember I used to do Marissa Tomei's hair at the time of my cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
And she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah.
I remember, and I did Marissa Tomei's hair till that movie. She came into the salon and she goes, I just, finished the movie. It's doing super well, in the cinema. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And she goes, my cousin Vinny. And I'm like, okay. I did not know the movie. I was totally in the oblivious. I would not know how to react. I guess I was do over, like, I guess, be there, be a little smarter on how to schmooze and do people. Never saw her again.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I think I messed that one up, and I had a few other incidents like that too. With Katie Lang, that I asked her if she knows, but that's my naiveness. I mean, goodness, I just got off the boat, but I cut her hair. I got to tell you that quickly. I asked Katie Lang if she knows. She told me she's a country singer from Canada, and I say, would you know a lesbian chick from Canada that sings covers? And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, that might be me. But by the way, the haircut for the Ingenue cover, me.
Yeah.
So that was that.
Yeah.
Little do-over on that. Be a little bit more polished.
Yes. But listen, what we all know is that nobody expected you to know if you just came in on that one. But so this one I think is going to be tough for you because I know how passionate you are about hair. But if tomorrow you couldn't do hair, what would you do?
Mountaineering.
Oh, well, that wasn't so tough.
No.
Yeah, I could say, but that's just your passion is shifting from one to the other. And then last question here. If you had one wish for industry, what would it be?
Stop using mannequin heads on the main stage.
There you go. Mike, I just want to say
main stage, Chris.
Yeah,
on
to
main
be specific.
To be specific.
Yes. Okay, so Mike, I just want to say, it's late in the evening for you with you being in Switzerland right now, but I just want to thank you for being so kind to give up your time for our audience. I just want to say, just from the bottom of my heart, my friend, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, right back at you. Thanks for having me. That you organized that so well. By the way, organizing that interview with you was a breathe with melody. I'm absolutely brilliant. People super professional. I love it. Thanks for having me. An absolute honor. And I can't wait to give you a big old hug when we cross
next time we're together. That's a deal.
I even was actually not kidding you. I by the way even struck my head. I'm like, maybe I should just come out. Don't you have like a thing in Arizona out there? You do these gatherings?
We've got.
And I'm a big fan of like that of Arizona anyway, and I know a handful of people out there, and I can combine a few things with it. Like
that would be awesome.
Like I was even thinking that, and Lori was raving about like how awesome you live, and I just figured, maybe I should.
Next time you're out here, come to the house and spend an evening. We can sit outside and just have a nice dinner and have a Coca-Cola.
I'll bring you some white Merlot.
Ooh,
white Merlot. Have you had a white Merlot?
I love it. I've never had a white Merlot. No, I have not.
All right, it's time.
But I've heard of it, but I've not had it.
Okay.
So, Mike, I just want to say thank you one more time. And listen, it's always nice to have a new friend that you can connect with when we're together.
Right back at you. Thanks for having me, Chris. All the best.
All right. Cheers,
Talk to you soon.
Bye.